All right, guys, I'm giving you guys the top 6 meta loadouts in Warzone 2, and most of these are going to be super sweaty aside from maybe this one. In my opinion, this one's probably going to be the most versatile. Like, anybody can actually get on and use this, but every other loadout is going to be pretty much just a meta, and it's going to be the fastest TTK. It's still going to have a significantly good TTK, this first class setup, but everything else is going to be pretty sweaty. So we're going to start out with the Taq-56. This is an overall amazing AR. We start out with the Harbinger D20. Now, there's not much tuning you should really need to do, but if you do want to tune it, you can increase the bullet velocity somewhere around like the 50 range. I put it at 62. It doesn't look like it actually increases anymore at that point. And then for the recoil smoothness, we increased it to about 67. That seems like a good point. Maybe 62 as well. So that seems to be relatively the same. At this point, put on the 17.5 Pro barrel, and you increase it just to around, it looks like, the 32 range, and recoil steadiness is probably around the same point. At that point, it doesn't seem too much more beneficial. So 0.35 is a good point. 60 round mags. This is not what you're going to use. You're going to use the FSS combat grip, and you're going to increase the aiming idle stability somewhere around 0.24. Recoil steadiness, increase it to about the same, 0.24. And then the TV Cardinal stock, you can use that. If you don't want to use that, I mean, you can use the Tactique Brute stock for more recoil control. And I mean, aside from that, if you don't want to use either of those, you can just go to high velocity, max out the bullet velocity, and then max out the damage range, and just show you guys how amazing this is. And just show you guys how amazing this is in the firing range. I mean, it just absolutely melts. You'll do really good with it without even trying, in my opinion. Next, we're moving on to the Fennec, and obviously you guys know this is my baby. Put on the ZLR 16.5 ignition barrel, increase the damage range by 0.25 inches and recoil steadiness, max it out. Now, this thing, in my opinion, is the best one overall because you get no smoke like the Covert Force and Tac Ninja, but you get all the benefits: damage range, bullet velocity, hip fire accuracy, and recoil control. Put on the VLK Laser 7MW for aim down sight speed, aiming stability, sprint to fire speed, but the laser is visible to enemy. Now, if you don't want to deal with that, you can level up the 1MW quickfire laser. That way the enemy won't actually see the laser, but you will get the aim down sight speed increase. Everything else you get from this at the cost of the laser being visible. Now, I put on the Agile Assault 7, maxed out the aiming idle stability, and then decrease the weight by 2.06 ounces to increase aim down sight speed. This helps with sprint speed, aim walking speed, crouch movement speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control and aiming stability, but you're not even going to notice that with this build. Put on the Fennec rubber grip, tune it to increase the recoil steadiness by 0.42 ounces, and then last but not least, put on the Fennec Mag 45, and just show you guys how good this is. You guys are going to see there's literally no smoke. Like, I mean, there is, but it's not blinding like it is with the other silencers. And long range, you don't really want to deal with long range fighting. If you do have to get into a long range fight with this gun, just please burst fire with it. Otherwise, you're not going to do too good. Next, we're moving on to the fan favorite, which is the RPK. Put on the Polar Fire S. This helps sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. We increase the bullet velocity by 0.32 inches and then the recoil smoothness by 0.32 ounces. Move on to the Tac 597 barrel. This helps the damage range, hip fire accuracy, movement speed, and bullet velocity. Increase the damage range by 0.26 inches and the recoil steadiness by 0.27 pounds. Put on the Aim Op V4. Maxed out the far eye position. I didn't change the flinch resistance or aim down sight speed. I feel like that's fine to keep the way it is. Put on the Demo X2 grip. Increase the recoil steadiness by 0.74 ounces, and put on high velocity to max out the bullet velocity and increase the damage range by 0.43 Gs, because after that it just doesn't change anymore. And I'll show you guys how amazing this is. This thing basically doesn't move except like maybe really long range, but as you guys see, if you can control the recoil, it doesn't even move there. But now we're moving on to a powerhouse of a weapon, which is the Taq-V. Put on the Custovia DX90. This is actually better than the Taq-56, but it's a little bit harder to control. Now, I increased the bullet velocity by 0.84 inches and then increased the recoil smoothness by 0.90 ounces. This helps sound suppression, bullet velocity, recoil smoothness, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, aim walking speed, and aiming stability. Put on the 18-inch precision 6 barrel, max out the damage range, and increase the recoil steadiness by 0.39 pounds. Increase the damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. Put on the Aim Op V4, max out the far. Put on the F-Tac River 56, increase the aiming out stability by 0.23 inches, and the recoil stabilization, you max that out. This helps with aiming out stability, hip fire accuracy, and recoil stabilization at the cost of aim down sight speed and walking speed. And last but not least, we put on the 50-round drum to be exact, and just show you guys how insane this is. Just check this thing out. I mean, it bounces a little bit initially, but the recoil, you can actually control it incredibly well with this build, and it's such a heavy hit. I think it does over 70 damage from the chest up, or it might even be, yeah, I think from the chest up, 70 plus damage. So you're getting a headshot or two, and it's just deadly. Now, if you don't want to use this sight, you can take this sight off and throw something like the Taq-V Brute, and it'll actually help with recoil a little bit more if you're more of an iron sight type guy. If you don't want to even use that, then you can just use high velocity and just max both the damage range and bullet velocity settings. Now, last but not least, we're going to move on to the Minibak. This thing is so good. Trust me, this is one of my favorite underrated. The Minibak is actually one of my favorite underrated guns to use, just because no one really expects you to use the Minibak, but you can actually wipe teams with this weapon. It has just the right amount of damage and more than enough bullets. You start out with the X10 RR40, max out the bullet velocity, increase the recoil smoothness by 0.45 ounces. This helps with sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. Now you get a decrease of aiming down sight speed and aiming stability, but you're not even going to notice that. Put on the Bach 9 279mm barrel. This maxes out the damage range, max out the aim walking speed. This increases the damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. Put on the Mark Kiev R7 stock, max out the aiming idle stability, and decrease the weight by 1.94 ounces, because at that point it doesn't really help anymore. This helps with the crouch movement speed, sprint speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. Put on a True Tac grip. This helps sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of recoil control. So I increased the recoil steadiness by 52 ounces, and I didn't change the width. And like I said, the Schlager Peck box just helped with the aim down sight speed. And just show you guys how awesome this is. One thing you want to do is definitely keep this close range, because once you get the long range, it's going to be a whole lot harder to control. So in my opinion, just keep your gunfights around this distance and maybe this different distance. But let me know in the comment section down below which setup actually helped you the most and which one you're most likely to use. Actually, one person brought up the fact that I didn't show my perk package and everything, even though you can see it. I put on heartbeat sensor. If you want to use stim, you can use that if you're caught in the gas or you just need to heal quickly. Throwing knife just to finish off the enemy. Weapon specialist. And then when you actually end up picking up your loadout, then you can use something like, I don't know, along the lines of high alert, which is Vanguard, just because you don't get bird's eye anymore. I don't know why they changed that. But apparently they took this out, like the recon. But if the recon is there, then please use recon, just because bird's eye is literally the best one to have overall.